It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and feel your mind.
I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when I'm like this. I got my head in the zone, you know. I'm on the Morning Star Drive, you know.
Hey guys, how's it going? It is Monday, May 3rd, and this is the Morning Star Drive on 117.8. We're on YouTube, so make sure to subscribe, follow us on SoundCloud, and support us on Patreon. So today we'll get some coronavirus updates, current news from around the world, and of course, the Sunday message of, you have learned from the Lord, now teach them and testify for the Lord. So guys, how's it going? How was your weekend? I'm sure you guys were able to enjoy it, have a great time, a great message, and of course another scripture coming from the Complete Testament Bible. Yes, we got another verse coming out of there, so I'm really thankful about this too. Sunday message, great, amazing. Saturday had some relaxing time. Actually, Saturday was super busy for me for some reason. I was like sports and then lecture training, and then I was teaching a Bible. I was just crazy busy at that time. So really happy and excited for this week. It's about teaching and then testifying for the Lord. So I hope that this week we'll be able to do this all together here on the Morning Star Drive. So thanks for joining us here today. Hopefully you can like and comment below. Well, guys, honestly, you don't really need to like the videos here on this one. It's not really a big deal. Comments I would like to hear, but of course, like I say every week, you know, the place where you can make all your likes and comments is going to be on the Espresso with Sky channel. We just had another video come out on Friday, doing really well. You know, we've passed 3,000 subscribers now, so super happy about this. And after today's message, it makes me contemplate and think a little bit deeper about this YouTube channel. But either way, yeah. Go ahead, watch that Friday one, and tomorrow night we're going to have another vlog. So hope you guys enjoy it and enjoy my vlog that's going to be tomorrow night. And of course, oh, Tonight we also have another Patreon on Patreon. Let's talk about Patreon first. It's a Zoom Bible study. It's a live Zoom Bible study. We always have anywhere from about 60 to 80 people coming on, and yeah, we're doing all advanced stuff, and it just makes me think twice, not twice. Makes me think more deeper about what I should talk about tonight, though. Okay, so shout outs. Let's go to shout outs. Rachel in Oz, Talia and Sarah in America for supporting us on Patreon. Very grateful and thankful for you guys believing, supporting this channel. If you want to support us too, go ahead, check out the Patreon link in the description. And if you're on SoundCloud, click the blue button on the homepage. Patreon is a crowdfunding site that you can support the Morning Star Drive at just $3 a month. And at the moment, we have lecture training videos on the site, Monday Bible studies. So go ahead and check it out. Yes, we did hit the 180 supporters. So we're, you know, our big goal is going for 200. But if you guys are inspired and whatnot, go ahead and click on that blue link on the homepage on SoundCloud, or you'll see it in the description for YouTube. All right, so let's move on to today's wonderful member artists. Who is the featured artist today? Today's featured artist is from New Zealand. It is none other than Juice Star Aiden Verity. Been watching her Instagram channel too. Instagram, her stories. She's singing, she's dancing, she got shows. So, you know, she's just kind of moving up, just like putting in the effort. She's putting in all the elbow grease, and she's moving up in the music world. So I hope that she will also be able to catch a break somewhere along that line. But we're going to hear the song Wisdom is the Best. And that comes from, that was inspired by one of the Sunday messages, I believe, last year. Secondly, we have Jay Root from the Paper Music Associates in Korea, and this song is called Latte, featuring St. Green. And yes, this is my favorite drink, and something that I will be drinking probably in the next 30 minutes. Renee Lai from Taiwan will be the third. Last but not least will be Renee Lai, and this song is going to be called a cover from a singer GEM, and the song is called Still a Girl. So yes, today we have member artists from New Zealand, Korea, and Taiwan. Hope you guys all enjoy this, and make sure we keep all these member artists in our prayers and enjoy their music, and hope that they get that creative juice and that big break that they need to go mainstream into the world.
Your mama ever tell this to you? She'll get you out of whatever mess that you get yourself into. Wisdom is the best. She comes running when you she'll teach you how to tell truth from fraud. They'll write your name up in lights and say, don't you want your reward? Wisdom is the best, she looks for the ways when truth likes to hide. If you come caught in a jam before, then it's better you let it decide. Hey, yeah, she's a sugar honey babe, just do whatever she says. She's a sugar honey babe. She's a sugar honey babe, just do whatever she says. She's a sugar honey babe. She's a sugar honey babe, just do whatever she says. She's a sugar honey babe. She's a sugar honey babe, just do whatever she says. She's a sugar honey babe. It's not working out, but you keep pressing on as if it'll change. Hurry up, Einstein, wisdom's knocking at your door. Go find a new way. Last time that I met the devil, he was dressed in a feint and over-planning. But my girl smashed him out with insight and some understanding. Hey, yeah. She's a sugar honey babe, just do whatever she says. She's a sugar honey babe. She's a sugar honey babe, just do whatever she says. She's a sugar honey babe. She's a sugar honey babe, just do whatever she says. She's a sugar honey babe. She's a sugar honey babe, just do whatever she says. She's a sugar honey babe. She's a sugar honey babe, just do whatever she says. She's a sugar honey babe. She's a sugar honey babe, just do whatever she says. She's a sugar honey babe. She's a sugar honey babe, just do whatever she says. She's a sugar honey babe. She's a sugar honey babe.
한 잔의 라떼 그 살일의 카페인 오늘은 밤이 올 수 없게 오늘은 잠이 들 수 없네 Stay awake 한 잔의 라떼 그 살일의 카페인 오늘은 밤이 올 수 없게 오늘은 잠이 들 수 없네 Stay awake 깨어 있어야 해 필요한 건 각성 상태 피로감은 누적이 돼 내일을 죽기는 주적이 돼 벌써 몇 시간째야 만큼한 것 같아 아니 나 오늘 막차 아니 저 차례 Sweet little bit, sweet little bit, sweet little bit 쓴 거 싫으니까 쓴 거 싫으니까 Give me a minute babe, me a minute, give me a minute babe 짙은 밤 하늘에 Milky Way 한 잔의 라떼 카페인 오늘은 밤이 올 수 없게 오늘은 잠이 들 수 없네 Stay awake 잠깐만 날 좀 있게 해줘 어제가 날 붙잡지 않게 해줘 Let me go now 잠에 들 수 없네 A couple latte Stay awake Sipping 먹기 전에 나와 지금은 조금은 달라 Sleeping to it softly 기분 좋은 작은 건 신경 쓰지 않아 Flipping City 거스린 too much sarcasm 가라를 미리 부드러운 느낌이 쓰라림에 지친 나는 외로워해주네 Can you feel me now You be me now You be me now 그 룸 위로 나 지기까지 갈 수 있게 되는 것 같죠 저기 비대어 till break the dawn 나 때는 말야 wow. 힘내지만 너 화면이 쌓여 침묵은 닮은 생고 밤을 새봐도 쌓이는 problem 빙빙 도는 내 몸 뻥 뚫린 내 홈 몇 번을 해 너 봐야 했어 다짐에 이게 마지막 no 한 잔의 라떼 그 살일의 밤이 올 수 없게 오늘은 잠이 들 수 없네 Stay awake 잠깐만 날 좀 있게 해줘 어제가 날 붙잡지 않게 해줘 Let me go now 잠에 들 수 없네 A couple lattes Stay awake Stay awake
当年我13岁，写的这首歌，公主每天在睡，梦里当游客，梦里爱上谁，都一定匹配。梦里痛的不懂得恐惧，痛的不用面对，追不过来的时间，做梦做的陶醉，但是我过的脸一再不可见。当那天真的我从梦里穿越现实，我曾经自由的脚步从此受到牵制。梦醒了吗？你的话像锋利的剑，能踏什么？这句话越听越可怜。小孩被逼长大，那受尽的瞳孔被逼放大。百年沉睡的歌王主，为了梦承诺现实的束缚。他不愿背叛自己虚假的承诺，他不愿过着没有梦想的生活。他能否别忘了我？我是抬头望着天空，拿着想飞的风筝，但现实却只在我身后一直拉着我的绳。如果生活必须让我变成被困住的手，为何不能让我永远都被困在一个梦？梦醒了吧，你的话像锋利的剑，能拿是的吧？这句话越听越可怜，你忘了吧，还是绝望了吧？才让曾奋不顾身追的梦只剩一个和弦。百年沉睡的公主，为了梦承诺现实的束缚。她不愿背叛自己虚假的承诺，她不愿过着没有梦想的生活。她能否别忘了我？我是抬头望着天空，拿着想飞的风筝，但现实却只在我身后一直拉着我的绳。如果生活必须让我变成被困住的手，为何不能让我永远都被困在一个梦？梦醒了吧，你的话像锋利的剑，能拿是的吧？这句话越听越可怜，你忘了吧，还是绝望了吧？才让曾奋不顾身追的梦只剩一个和弦。百年沉睡的公主，为了梦承诺现实的束缚。她不愿背叛自己虚假的承诺，她不愿过着没有梦想的生活。她能否别忘了我？她能否别忘了我？
And there you go. That was Renee live from Taiwan with the cover from GEM, Still a Girl. Before that, J Root from the Paper Music Associates in Korea with Latte, and Juice Star Aiden Verity from New Zealand with Wisdom is the Best. All right, guys, so let's get into some news going on around the world, things that we've missed over the entire weekend. So yes, there are huge, massive jumps going on with the coronavirus updates and some milestones that have been hit, like huge milestones. So it's something that we can, it's pretty crazy. So in the world right now, there's 152.8 million cases, 3.2 million deaths at 2.1% mortality rate, which is good news. because the mortality rate went down once again 0.01%, which is huge in the global scale. Top 6 countries going by daily infection rates. The U.S. has 33.1 million cases and 590,000 deaths, which means 600,000 is around the corner. 1.78% is their mortality rate. India jumps super high to 19.5 million cases, 215,000 deaths at 1.1%. Brazil's a shocker. 14.7 million cases, but they're at 406,000 deaths. They've hit 400,000, right? And their mortality rate went up 0.02% to 2.76%. France, 5.6 million cases, 104,000 deaths. They dropped to 1.86% mortality rate. Turkey, 4.8 million cases, 40,000 deaths, 0.84% mortality rate, which means it's a 0.01% jump, right? So it went up in Turkey. Argentina drops 2.9 million cases, 64,000 deaths, down to 2.14% mortality rate. Sweden drops 0.02% to 1.44%, and then Belgium once had over 16% in mortality rate is down to 2.45%. So great news there. Now let's take a look at the daily infection rates, and here's a huge milestone. India has hit 400,000 cases in a day. 402,000 cases in a single day. Brazil's in second with 73, US with 59, Turkey 31, France 24,000, and Argentina with 22,000 cases in a day. And yes, guys, India is 400,000 plus cases in a day, which I think is more than like the next 20 countries added together. Something along that. It's really crazy how big they are, because if you just take 402,000, Brazil and US themselves is 130,000, right? And then from this point on, it's really low, because you won't even hit another 100,000 for like another 4 or 5 countries. So you're looking at maybe 10 to 15 countries before you hit the same amount that India has. So that's how bad it is right now. But the good news is a lot of countries sending aid over to India right now too. Over here in Southeast Asia, Philippines, 8,700 cases in a day. And then the Indonesia with 5,500. And then Malaysia over here has a huge jump to 3,700 cases in a day, which is 1,000 more than the day before. So that is something that is quite crazy, okay? So let's get into some news going on around the world. And here's some religious news in Israel. And it is a really sad thing. There's a stampede in Israel, and I believe over 45 people have died so far, right? So Prime Minister Netanyahu promises an inquiry as first victims are buried. So what happened was families in Israel have begun burying their loved ones after at least 45 people have died in a crush at a crowded Jewish festival overnight. 150 people were also injured at this festival called the Lag Bomer Festival, and is near Mount Meron, when people became trapped in an overcrowded passageway. So now funerals were allowed to take place for victims who were positively identified, and the PM Netanyahu promised that an inquiry would definitely be happening because of this tragedy. Visiting the scene, he said it was one of the worst peacetime disasters the country has known. One survivor, who gave his name as David, told the news that it felt like a human wave had broken, and bodies were swept along by themselves. People were thrown up in the air. Others were crushed on the ground. So medics struggled to reach the injured in the ensuing chaos, and those who died are believed to be predominantly men or boys from the ultra-Orthodox community, as the crush at the largely gender-segregated event apparently happened in one of the men's sections. So some victims are believed to be foreign nationals, right? And I believe some from America, some from other different countries. And Sunday has been declared a national day of mourning. So what do we know about what has happened, right? So, how did this disaster actually happen, right? So the site includes several large gathering grounds with open-air stands and stages connected by a network of paths. And it was along one of those paths where witnesses said the crush of people began at around 1 p.m. local time. Okay? 1 a.m. local time. So some witnesses said the incident had begun when police closed the passageway, and they said that corridor, that passageway, was about 3 meters wide. Okay? So it's very, very narrow. So police sources told the newspaper that some people had slipped on steps, causing dozens more to fall over. And this, but of course, is not officially confirmed yet. And an injured man lying on a hospital bed said a line of people in the front of the surgeon crowd had simply collapsed. So a pyramid of one on top of another was formed, and the unnamed man was quoted as saying by Reuters news agency, people were piling up one on top of the other, and he was in the second row. And the people in the first row, basically, he was watching them die in front of his eyes, right? So the director of operations for this volunteer-based emergency services organization told the BBC that they've never witnessed such a scene in his 30-year career. And it was just very surreal for many people. During that time, 20 people undergoing CPR by the teams at the same time, limited ability to evacuate from the scene. The place was just too overwhelmed with people. And witnesses say a police barricade prevented people from leaving the crowded area. And Israel's state watchdog basically issued warnings in 2008 and 2011 of the risk of a disaster. So special danger was posed by access roads and paths, which are narrow and not appropriate to accommodate the hundreds of thousands of people who visit the site, right? So what was different this year was that bonfire areas were partitioned off as a coronavirus precaution, and this may have created unexpected choke points for foot traffic, right? So thousands of police officers closed down the event after the crush before helping evacuate attendees. So how did the police respond? Investigators will look into whether there was any police misconduct, and the PM Netanyahu promised a serious investigation that would ensure this kind of disaster would never happen again. So regional police chief told reporters at the scene he took it upon himself that the overall responsibility for good and for bad was, he's ready for every inspection. So really, really sad news. What is going on there. Already, this is supposed to be like a religious festival that they do every year, but it wasn't handled properly. The SOPs weren't right, and big stampede happens, and so far 45 people have died from that. So that's pretty crazy. Guys, it would be similar to like having a Holy Spirit movement, like overcrowded, and then people started dying, right? Because it was just packed and people were stampeding out, and it was just. Can you imagine if 45 died like that? Oh my gosh, that would be crazy, but this is what happened there. In second news, we just talked about this. Brazil passes 400,000 deaths. And the vaccinations are very slow at the moment. So, 400,000 people, over 400,000 people have died in Brazil, the second highest in the world. And this country is continuing to struggle with this vaccination program. Over 3,000 deaths in 24 hours. After a peak of more than 4,000 was reached at the start of April. So the 14-day average of deaths and cases remains really high, but has seen a slight fall. So Congress has opened an inquiry into the government's handling of the pandemic. And of course, the president, Bolsonaro, he's frequently spoken out against the lockdowns, masks, and defended unproved drugs as treatment, facing widespread criticism, and his support is plummeting. So the outbreak has been fueled by more transmissible variants of the virus and a lack of coordinated national measures, and the situation has improved in many areas, including where the health system was on the brink of collapse, and after states and cities imposed restrictions, but they are already being eased. Now, the rate of occupancy of intensive care units, right? So the ICU beds remain at or above 90% in more than a third of the states, right? So it's better than, some people were thinking it was all hospitals, but it's only a third, is over 90%. So we haven't reached 100%, right? But it is very, very critical. And, there's a tendency of a slight fall, but not yet of containment of the pandemic, of the epidemic. And they're warning that the daily number of deaths is likely to remain very high. So, Brazil recorded 100,000 deaths in just 37 days between March and April, which were the worst months in the country, and only the U.S. has a higher death toll. So since the start of the pandemic, Brazil has had more than 14 million cases, and meanwhile, some cities have had to temporarily halt their vaccination programs because there's a big shortage of doses. So about 30% of the population of 212 million have received at least one dose, right? This is according to the World Data Tracker. And on Tuesday last week, a Senate commission started an official inquiry into the Bolsonaro government's response to the coronavirus, right? So it is quite, it's quite sad because, America's hitting 600,000 pretty soon, right? 600,000. But the mortality rate is like almost, it's 2.74% here in Brazil, where America's down to like 1 point, what was it? What was America down to? They were down to like 1.2%, 1.1%, 1.2% around there, right? So, you know, Brazil's mortality rate is more than double of what America has. So it's quite sad to see that these big milestones being reached. Last but not least, we're going to India. And India, like we know that it's pretty crazy over there. Over 200,000 deaths and getting 400,000 cases in a day. 3,000 deaths in a day, I believe. And they have a massive vaccine shortage, right? So the desperate they just have to wait longer and longer. So the vaccine drive in India started in January, right? And there was a lot of optimism because we talked about this before. How did it get so bad when they kind of eased the restrictions too early? So the country's very own Serum Institute of India, the world's largest vaccine maker, was meant to supply most of the jabs as the country headed towards an ambitious target covering 250 million people by July. Now, the WHO-led scheme, India even exported vaccines to countries that needed them. But 3 months on, COVID cases and deaths are spiking across the country, and only about 26 million people have been fully vaccinated out of a population of 1.4 billion people. And about 124 million have received just a single dose. So, we're looking at even just a single dose is not even 10%. Not even 10%, right? So the Prime Minister Modi, his government has canceled exports, reneging on international commitments. And what's worse, vaccine stocks in the country have nearly dried up, and no one is sure when more will arrive. So this demand surged when supply was short, and this is one of the problems. Wednesday afternoon, last week Wednesday, just as millions of Indians were trying to register online for a COVID jab, the vaccine portal and its accompanying apps crashed. So starting May 1st, India is opening up vaccination for roughly 600 million more people to cover the 18 to 44-year-olds. But CoWIN, right, is the platform, right, that the platform for the app or the website couldn't handle it. So basically, no one can register for this vaccine jab. People are waiting over and over, just waiting forever, right? So it's quite crazy what's happening right now over there. A lot of people are still waiting for, you know what, you guys know what an OTP is? Like, this is something that I don't think is in America or Canada, because I'm only used to it here when I'm in Malaysia, is like you register for something and then they send a text to your phone with like a password on it, right? Like a code. And then you take that code and you put it in. I'm not sure if that's, I don't remember ever doing that in America, right? But here they have that. But, that's how this system works. This app or the website works as you register, then they send a code to your phone, and then you put that code into the app or the website, right? Some people, like most people, have not even gotten an OTP, right? It hasn't even gotten to them. They've signed up and they just wait hours and there's nothing coming to their phones, right? So yes, eventually the site was back up, but to the disappointment of more than 13 million people who did finally register, not a single vaccine center had slots for booking, right? And this is just a fraction of the 600 million people newly eligible for a jab. And there's also another 200 million or so, 45 and above, who are yet to get their second jab, right? So experts say the government should have finished vaccinating people above 45 before opening it up further, especially when supply was low. And in fact, this appeared to be the plan until as recently as April 6th, when the health ministry said that the drive could not simply be accelerated and that it was not yet considering expanding it to all adults. So it's likely the rapid, unrelenting surge in cases and reports that younger people were increasingly being admitted to hospital with severe symptoms led to this decision. So they should have, most economists and people and experts were saying they should have, held their nerve, focused on the vulnerable more than anyone else. But now they have to now the people who are 45 and over, which are more vulnerable, have to compete with 600 million new demanders, which is quite crazy, guys. Guys, think about that. 600 million is almost double of just America's entire population, and that's only 18 to 44, right? 200 million are 45 and above. So that's 800 million people here who are registering and fighting for these jabs, it's intense. So since the announcement, those who have received no doses or a single dose so far have been queuing up at centers before supplies run out, raising the risk of infection. But that's not the only factor that has thrown India's vaccine drive into chaos, right? And right now, it's a seller's market. And what does that mean? Until now, India's federal government had been the sole purchaser of the 2 approved vaccines, Covishield, developed by AstraZeneca, and Covaxin, made by a local firm in India. But it's now thrown open the market to not just 28 state governments, but also private hospitals, all of whom can directly negotiate and buy from the 2 vaccine makers, and they have to pay far more. So the federal government still gets 50% of stock for 150 rupees, which is around $2 American, right, per dose. But states have to pay double that, and private hospitals 8 times as much, all while competing for the remaining half. So the sudden transfer of responsibility, it was announced just 10 days ago, left officials with little time to negotiate prices or stockpile vaccines, especially since vaccine makers still have orders pending from the federal government. So, they're the only country in the world that is allowing sub-national governments to directly buy from vaccine makers. And this is basically everyone saying, like, this is not well thought out. So the different prices are concerning, right? A public health expert who advises federal and state governments that are tackling the coronavirus, and all vaccinations basically should be free for public good. So why should states pay a higher price, right? Because they're also using the same taxpayer money. So he fears now it's kind of a seller's market where the poorest Indians are likely to be last in line. So like 2 private hospital chains have already announced that they will roll out the vaccine for 18 to 44-year-olds from tomorrow, but it's unclear how they managed to secure supply when states are struggling. So some have even said they are putting the expansion on hold until more vaccines arrive. So, when are they going to arrive? No one really knows. Right? Because the federal government is still waiting for 615 million doses to finish their vaccinating everyone above the age of 45, and about 440 million people. So state governments are expected to pick up the tab for 18 to 44-year-olds, and there are 622 million of them, and they would need more than 1.2 billion doses. So even vaccinating 70% to achieve herd immunity would require some 870 million doses, which is crazy, guys, right? So this doesn't even count for wastage, which means more stocks are needed. So to be able to administer all of these doses in the next year, India needs to be giving 3.5 million doses a day, right? Right now, it's under 1 million doses a day. Like the only country that's hitting like 3.5 million close to it would be America. The last time I checked was a month ago, and America was doing 3.1 million doses a day. So, wow. So the supply is nowhere close where it should be needed, right? And they're gonna like the world's biggest vaccine maker, SII. They're producing 70 million doses in May. That's it, just 70 million, right? And then the other, Bharat Biotech, is going to be making another 20 million. That's only 90 million of like 870 million they need just for herd immunity, right? So that's only 90 million doses a month. And they're expected to ramp up further, but it's going to take some time for this to happen. So good thing is other vaccines are now coming into the mix, including the Sputnik 5 from Russia. Still needs to be approved by Europe. And hopefully some other ones will be approved very soon too. Like, I'm not sure how many people can actually complain about vaccines at this moment. There's not enough to go around. The only country that has excess is America, actually. So America, we heard last week, is going to be giving up 60 million doses of AstraZeneca to other countries too, right? So, man. So and one of the questions a lot of people are asking is, what was the plan B, right? And it was kind of no one had a plan B for the second wave. Right, so because it was so low, right? Because the rates were so low in January, February, and even into March, they thought that the second wave wouldn't be as this intense. So yeah, it's quite interesting to see what's going to happen further with India. Wow, yeah. Plan A, basically there was no plan B because the assumption was that there would be no second wave at all, which is quite alarming more than anything else. So that is the news going on for today. Hope that kind of opens our eyes to what is going on around the world, which means that we're going to get into a little bit more of a spiritual time. So let's have a time of praise and worship. And we're gonna praise and worship how? We're gonna sing a couple songs here. First is Let's Go, The Time Has Come, and then Eternally Thankful, and then we'll end with Everyone in Every Time Period. So as one body of the Morning Star Drive, I hope all of us here can give glory, praise, and honor to the Holy Trinity.
Come on, time to go now. Heaven's time has arrived now. Heaven is waiting and all those clouds of people too. They waited for this time. Do the right work at the right time. There is a brother God has given me. At that instant, don't miss the chance. Don't let time just pass you by. I always keep this proverb within my brain. It's engraved deep down in my bones. In all I do, everywhere that I may go, I take action. With the thoughts that come at each time, faster than light, I get it done. I always gain what I should gain. At that instant, don't miss the chance. Don't let time just pass you by. I always keep this proverb within my brain. It's engraved deep down in my bones. In all I do, everywhere that I may go, I take action. With the thoughts that come at each time, faster than light, I get it done. I always gain what I should gain. God above, I truly see you're always close to me, leading me with inspiration, and you intervene for me. I know I'm safe within your hands. You protected me from death. Now you are the reason that I live my life. Thank you eternally. Thank you for everything. Holy Trinity, you've kept me safe from harm. Now singing joyfully, I'll praise you gloriously. Holy Trinity, I'll give my
ago, that is Everyone in Every Time Period. Before that, Eternally Thankful. And let's go, The Time Has Come. And yes, that is the beginning of this spiritual time with some praise and worship, which means we're going to go into some word study for this week. So this week's message, very interesting because the main scripture is just like the complete Testament Bible. Right? Now that you have learned, right? Now that I've taught you, you go out, teach other people, then testify for the Lord. And the two big key points is teaching and testifying, the double T's, right? Teach and testify. So really, really powerful message because it's kind of giving you the framework of how your church can grow really well. And it has to do with lecturing, right? It has to do with lecturing and testifying. And I think that there are lecturers out there, and there are those that are really good at testifying too, that might not be good at lecturing, but they're great testifiers out there. So these are like two parts of the church I think we really need to build up really well. And just to hear exactly what Jesus told Sunstein during that time, I think is something that's very telling of what is the secret sauce to getting everything to go better. Of course, those are two of the methods we use to grow the church. And of course, more than anything else, we need that love inside the church for the church to remain and be steady. But man, that verse, that first verse he brought in was Hebrews chapter 5, 12 to 14. It's one of my favorite verses too. I tell everyone to memorize this one. Is, you're drinking milk when you, by this time, you should already be teachers. You should have grown up and matured. You should be eating solid food, not be drinking milk like that. And it's something that I listened to. I was like, yeah, that's so true. Like, how long it would be kind of weird, though, if you're in a church for like 10, 15 years and you know nothing about the doctrine, or like you couldn't even explain the doctrine to someone. And that's something I think that we have to really think about and look at it very carefully, right? Is how long have we been in the church and how much do we really know, like clearly? Because that seems to be one of the big themes is you need to know the words clearly. You need to know the Lord clearly, know the words clearly, because those are the two things, teach and testify. Right? We have to grow up and you have to become mature, right? Yes, it is thrilling. I like this first point. One of the very beginning points that was made in the sermon is it is thrilling and exciting to learn new things, but you shouldn't learn too much at a time, right? And I've seen this happen before where people overstudy or over-research. It's just too much information. And because it's too much information, it's very, very difficult to digest everything you just heard or you just read or you just saw. Like, I really believe in focusing on a certain thing and only focused on that and really doing thorough research more than anything else. And then after that, really well, you're able to simplify it. Because, I talked to someone the other day too, is sometimes we're just trying to get what's the key point? Okay, just tell me what it means, right? Like what's the overall meaning, right? However, in order for us to really understand or grasp like the simplified key point, the thing we have to see is we need to understand all the details and little points too really well. And then when you simplify it, it becomes very easy for you to understand. And I can totally see, yeah, it's thrilling to learn new things. Like, wow, I never thought about this. And there's so much research you can do on the Bible, so much research you can do on every single subject. But if you go too deep into it, if you overstudy or over-research, it can become a very big negative for you too. And I've seen people who start to doubt or think other things and like, oh no, Sunstein is wrong or whatever like that. I've seen that happen a lot before. And it's something that we have to be careful of, because the thrill is great, but that's like, someone who's just trying to risk their life and everything just so they can have that adrenaline rush. And that's what happens when you learn. And we have to really be those that study and focus carefully and clearly, right? So that made me think a lot about myself when I was younger too, just trying to soak in as much as I could. But it was more of how much could I actually digest was the bigger question. Yeah. So, receiving too from the Lord, and I think the same thing with learning is it's about how it's a matter of how big your vessel is. So your vessel could be small or big, right? Your vessel is big or your vessel is small, whatever it is, right? So no matter what the vessel is, depending on the size of your vessel is how much you can fit in, which means that what does it mean to overstudy and over research? Well, you can take a look at each person is different, their vessel is different. But when it comes to like the vessel that God is putting into, the interesting thing is, I'm still thinking about this, is how do you grow your vessel, right? Because that was an interesting point. It's like, yeah, how do you grow? It's like, wow, that's a good question. How would I grow my vessel? Is it when I mature? Is it when I grow up? Like, is it just naturally getting bigger? And he's like, no, it's about believing. It's by believing in what you hear. And I was like, really? How does that grow my vessel? So a lot of different things came into my mind, like, say, if you really believe something that is said, then it goes into your vessel. And if you don't believe, then you don't put it in your vessel, which means your vessel is full, right? Which is very counterintuitive, thinking that you grow your vessel and God puts in as much as how big your vessel is. But the way he said it was like, it's about believing. The thing that's interesting about that is as much as you believe is as much as you can fit in. So imagine if you believed every single thing that God said, then your vessel is huge, because it's about belief. So it's a very, very interesting concept. I was like, wow, you grow your vessel by whether you believe or not. And I thought that was something quite interesting, right? God gives as much as the size of the vessel, but your vessel is grows by how much you believe in something. So yeah, that was interesting. What about when I don't know if he's talking to a YouTuber or like a social media influencer he's talking about with several 100,000 people that are subscribed, but he was doing beauty. I believe it was a he, right? He or she, someone was doing beauty. But the interesting thing was, he's like, they have 1.5 million views on, like, say, a certain video. But then the big question was, did you evangelize through it? And that makes me think triple, quadruple, quintuple, septuple, whatever you want, an octuple, whatever. I don't know what you want to put it. It made me think like, oh, because the key point is to evangelize. But in my head, I'm like, okay, so obviously if your channel didn't grow, then you wouldn't have, like, if your channel didn't grow, you wouldn't have a space, right? You wouldn't have this space where you wouldn't have a platform for people to come and listen to and to be evangelized, right? But it would be really difficult if you're doing like a channel on pranks, and then once you gather 1 million people, then you're going to start doing spiritual stuff. Like, that doesn't make sense to me either, right? So that was something that was quite interesting. I was like, oh, that's interesting. What does that mean? Like, what does that actually mean? So I was thinking about this because, I'm still, the channel that I have for YouTube is very, very small still. It's like just over 3,000 subscribers. But I thought to myself, like, oh, that's interesting. Yeah, that really is interesting. Like, how would I go about this? So it is something that I do need to discuss with Sunsim about too, right? So because, did you evangelize and did you talk about God? Right? So that's something that is making me think a lot about this YouTubing and stuff like that. So the main points that we got is teaching and testifying, right? And man, there was this one section, I think it was for at least a good 20-25 minutes. Sunsim just talked about all the stories. And number one is, we might think to ourselves like, oh, what does it have to do with us, about this week's message? But it has everything to do with it, because the one thing I liked is you hear the stories and now we are able to testify about the Lord. Because that's one of the things we're supposed to do, is to testify, right? But how can we testify if we don't know enough? We don't know the stories. We don't know what Sunsim's thinking, his shimjung, all these other different things, right? But he goes deep into it, like what he felt, when he wanted to be an announcer, and what he felt, during those times where, where he was being rebuked heavily. And there's so many things he went into where you have to re-listen to it and say, wow, this is the way I testify. Because he's basically testifying about himself, so that we, as those who testify for the Lord, have the stories to testify about him. So that it's not just going to be lecturing, right? Not just teaching doctrine. Because I remember what Sunsim said was he taught someone, and then that person just said, oh, thank you so much, and then went back to their own Christian church, which doesn't really make any sense, right? And the Holy Spirit's like, look what you did. You got to testify. You got to testify for yourself. If they know who you are, then it changes, right? And that becomes a big thing is, do we testify for the Lord enough? And what is the best way to do it? Because, I don't want people to go all of a sudden freaking out, and all of a sudden someone meets someone for the first time. Oh, the Lord is here. Oh my gosh. And he did all these things. Because that's just weird, right? There's always a wise way to do things, to testify. And testifying for the Lord doesn't literally mean that you're going to just beginning to end testify. There's always beautiful and wise ways to do it. Like even the way that in the message where it showed Jesus talking to the Samaritan woman by the well, it's a very beautiful way of doing it, right? Like inching up step by step, talking about more and more, and slowly revealing more and more until he can kind of put out the nuclear bombs, right? And then, then they're like, oh, this is exactly what oh my gosh, the Lord has come. And he was able to testify, but it was done in such a beautiful way where it wasn't just like just taking the Bible and just slapping them across the face with it from the very beginning, right? And I think that's something that some people will misunderstand is, oh, you didn't testify for the Lord. And the answer is, well, there is no one way of doing it. I've heard even Sunsim talk about some people will just teach the word so beautifully, so amazingly, that the person just turns and says, where did you get this from? This person must be the one. Even that way is beautiful, right? There's so many different ways that we can testify and preach for the Lord, right? And I just don't want. I know that sometimes people take things too extreme and they'll just start testifying in every chance they have, which is wise only in some situations, but in many others are not, right? And that's something we have to really think about. And how do we do that? Well, I think this point that was made during the middle of the sermon was, that you need to have a sense of mission, right? When we're doing this, like the sense of mission is like, this is mine. This is something that God has given to me. And like, you put your all into it. There's no forcing. You just do it because you know this is yours. It belongs to you, right? And this is what Sunstein basically said, average effort doesn't cut it, right? Just doing things in average way is not going to cut it. You have to do things in what way? You have to have that sense of mission, right? That this belongs to me. The baton was passed to me. This is not something that's just done for any person. Like Jesus, remember when Sunstein said, Jesus, you have so many people you can ask for this. Why are you asking me? He's like, no, it's only you. And I think that's one of the things that we have to look at in ourselves is, are we thinking like Sunstein did, where there's so many other people that could do this mission? Why are you choosing me? Or more of, wow, you chose me? Man, this is my mission to make it the best of the best. I got to do my best. I got to do everything I can to make this greater and better than anything else, right? So it's not by force, but it's because of the sense of mission that we've taken on, saying, yes, this belongs to me, right? So that was something that I really looked at and said, yeah, because even at that one point where Sunstein was talking about, what did he say? He said something like, you guys should all be, you guys could have been the top apostles by now. Right? By knowing the truth, like you should have put in, like learned that well and learned the word that deeply. You should have been more serious about learning about it. You should have been more serious, learning it deeply, knowing the truth clearly. You would have been a top apostle by now. And that was like, yeah, that's so true. Like we start well and then we kind of, laze off a bit, right? We get a little bit lazy. If we testify for the Lord, then your church will not become just a regular Christian church. You need to teach. You need to testify. You need to know the Lord clearly. You need to know the doctrines. You need to know the scriptures, the word, teach correctly. The moment you learn things correctly, then life changes. Right? We got to testify about this time period, clearly testify about the Lord who's here right now, but we have to do it in a beautiful, wise, and smart way, right? How serious was Sunstein? Remember he said that when he found out that Jesus wasn't supposed to die, what happened? He cried for 20 days and said that he would relieve the heart of Jesus. Can you believe, like, that is taking it seriously. And that's something I think that we have to think about for ourselves too. We got to change the way that we think. The pre-dawn prayer has to change. The difference of going to pre-dawn prayer or not is heaven and earth, he said, right? So I hope that, all of us, the key is to know who the Messiah is. That's going to be the big key of anything else, right? Because think about it. He taught the word, but didn't testify about himself. So the person just went back and he didn't change anything. But you can have someone who doesn't know the word as well, but knows the Lord, and they'll be raptured, or they'll be changed and transformed, and they'll come into the new history. That's the ultimate thing, right? Number one. And then, of course, after that, we have to learn the word clearly. All these are the different things, but it's about knowing the Lord more than anything else. Okay? So that is the word study for today. I hope you guys really enjoyed that. That's going to lead us into the song of choice for today. And yes, going with this week's message, I chose a song way back in my high school days from an artist. She died in a plane crash. Her name is Aaliyah, right? I remember that very first song she came out with. I think she was like 15 or 16. The song was called Back and Forth. But the song I'm going to put on is, I believe she was collaborating with Timbaland, and this song is called Try Again. And it's a great message, guys. It's kind of one of those first you don't succeed, then basically the song says, dust yourself off and try again. You just got to get up and do it again, right? And I hope it's like with this week's message too, we are learning about the Lord, learning how to teach, learning how to do things in a better way. We just got to make it better and better. And we have to be those that really get our hearts and our minds to keep trying over and over again. If it doesn't work, just get back up and try again, all right? So this is Aaliyah with Try Again.
It's been a long time. We shouldn't have left you without a dope beat. Step two, step two, step two, step two, step two, step two. It's been a long time. We shouldn't have left you without a dope beat. Step two, step two, step two, step two, step two. Baby girl.
What would you do to get to me? What would you say to have have your way? Would you give up or try again? If I hesitate to let you in, now would you be yourself or play a role? Tell all the boys I'll keep it low. If I say no, would you turn away or play me off, or would you stay? Oh, first you don't succeed, dust yourself off and try again. You can dust it off and try again, try again. Cause if at first you don't succeed, you can dust it off and try again. Dust yourself off and try again, try again. I'm into you, you into me, but I can't let it go so easily. Not till I see what this could be eternity or just a week. We know our chemistry is off the chain, it's perfect now, but will it change? This ain't a yes, this ain't a no. Just do your thing, we'll see how it goes. Oh, first you don't succeed, dust yourself off and try again. You can dust it off and try again, try again. Cause if at first you don't succeed, you can dust it off and try again, try again. Dust yourself off and try again, try again. Cause if you don't wanna throw it all away, I might be shy on the first day. What about the next day? I said you don't wanna throw it all away. Might be bugging on the first day. What about the next day? And if at first you don't succeed, dust yourself off and try again. You can dust it off and try again, try again. Cause if at first you don't succeed, you can dust it off and try again. Dust yourself off and try again, try again, try again. And if at first you don't succeed, yeah, dust yourself off and try again. You can dust it off and try again, try again. 'Cause if at first you don't succeed, baby, you can dust it off and try again. Dust yourself off and try again, try again, again, again.
We shouldn't have left you without a dope beat. Step two, step two, step two, step two, step two, step two. It's been a long time. We shouldn't have left you without a dope beat. Step two, step two, step two, step two, step two, step two. One more again. The new millennium, baby. And we out. You guess who it is.
And there you go. That was Aaliyah. I think that's all the way in the 90s, because that's my high school days. I graduated in 96, right? From high school in 1996. So, yeah, that's from my high school days. Aaliyah with Try Again. Really, really, I liked it. That's Timbaland, right? Timbaland put in the beats, and then you have Aaliyah. I believe she is either the same age as me or she was a little bit younger than me. Yeah, it was quite amazing. She came out, and all her music was just basically so popular at that time. All right, so that's Aaliyah with Try Again. And that means that we're getting into kind of my first thoughts of the week and a couple things I've been thinking in my head. With there's two main things. Number one is it's kind of the thoughts that the Holy Spirit's put in my head after I got this incredible, miraculous extension here. And I know that God doesn't just do things for no reason. He doesn't do things just because, just because I want it. But there's also something that's there's a much bigger picture thing that I have to see beyond this, right? And I was thinking to myself, I have this, it wasn't even paying for anything. It's just another, it's possible that I won't even get an extension and I leave after May 31st. However, it's interesting that I have these extra 40 days here in Malaysia. And I kind of, it makes me think, kind of sit back again, because I have these extra, there's another 30 days left. And my heart has gone into contemplation, contemplating, oh, okay, so God, why did you allow me to stay? Right? What's the reasoning behind it? Should I be here? Should I be thinking twice? Should I be thinking about a next destination? Or God, is it good for me to be here? Is it better? Is it good for me to be in a new environment? Would that be better for me instead? Right? Is there something else that I should be doing rather than what I'm doing right now? So I was really thinking of it's something that's been on my mind a lot now. Of before, I'm like 100%, oh, I just want to stay in Malaysia. It's so much better here. And then now, you know, I had that 1 week before, like, you got to get out. And I'm like, oh my gosh, right? And then you're kind of freaking out, and you're looking around like, how do I prepare? What do I prepare for this to get my visa extension? Whatever it is, right? And it's in my head like, okay, gosh, no, this is kind of crazy. What's going on? So then I thought to myself is, all right, so now that the storm is over, the storm of going to the interview and having the miracle happen and trying to figure out what's going on, now that everything, like the storm has calmed down, it's put my mind into a place. And I think it's a good thing for everyone too, is after you go through a very, very tumultuous or difficult or stressful time, you know, we got to kind of sit back and look at it and say, okay, what do I need to do next? Like, what's the next step? What do I need to figure out after this, right? What's going on? And it really makes me think twice, 3 times, 4 times of, you know, it is very possible that by May 31st, after 40 days, I'm going to be in another place. And that's something that I don't want to be in a position where I have 7 days left and I just got to pray myself like, oh my gosh, God, help me to be ready. But now I literally have a lot of time where I can sit back and say, what are my priorities? What do I need to do? Right? And it's even when I looked at what Sunseem said about the social media, that influencer that he was talking about, that you know, the question was, did you evangelize? Did you evangelize? Right? Did you do the right things? And I was like, huh. Did you testify about God? I was like, huh. And that even makes me think twice too of, okay, so am I going the right direction? Is it okay, or should I be thinking something different? Or I'm not quite sure about this yet. So this is why I was really, really contemplating and saying, at the moment, my next step, it only seems to be Canada at the moment, because that's the only place that, you know, I'm a Canadian citizen. I can go back freely, right? But I'm also thinking to myself, the future-wise, what should I be thinking about for the future? You know, where should I be going, or what should I be doing? And even if I do this YouTube channel, am I in the right direction? Like, I see growth. Like, I've seen really good growth, and we're over 3,000 subscribers now. But I'm like, But is there something else that I don't see? Is there something else out there that I have to look at and say, you know, maybe you should think about this, or maybe you should think about this. So, yeah, I'm very, very, I'm thinking a lot about what I should be doing right now at this moment. And I'm hoping that we'll be able to, you know, through prayer, just really contemplate and think about what is the next step for me, and what's the best thing God has for me. Like, I'm not going to be sitting there trying to think that I should stay or I should go, but I should just really be clinging to God, thinking, you know, God, what is it that you want from me right now? Like, what's the next step that's going to be the best step for what needs to happen, not just for me, but for the history of God. So that's been a big thing, because now that the storm is over, I've been thinking a lot about this, and I think it's a good idea for a lot of people too, to really sit back and look at what's happening and seeing if, you know, you're in the right position, the right mission, and should you be moving on somewhere else, right? Not somewhere else doesn't literally mean move to another country, but could mean a new mission, right? Or it could mean putting or trying something new, starting to lecture, starting to do this or starting to do that. And I think we all kind of go, like, for me too, I've been a head leader, I've been, department leader, I've been doing a touring pastor, missionary, I've done all these different things. And I see where my successes are, and I see the things that I do well, where this is kind of the gift that God has given me. And now I'm kind of looking at, okay, so where do I go next with this? Where could I go next with this? What's the next best thing I can do? So it's been quite interesting. I think I need to really think about this even more. Think about what's the best thing that I can do, what God sees in me that maybe I'm not seeing myself. Because I am getting a lot of hints. Well, not hints. It's more of like I am seeing things like, maybe God, maybe you're telling me not to do this. Maybe God, you're telling me to do something different or something better, right, than what I'm doing right now. So, yeah, I am very, very much in a mode of contemplation, because just a week ago I was thinking, I might not be here. So, what would I do next? How would I do the next, the process and stuff? So, yes, that is what's in my heart and my mind, and I'm hoping that I can get some more ideas and more things to think about for the future. But I think it's also a good transition time as we're going in and out of these lockdowns and slowly coming out of a pandemic. All right, so I hope this is a good Monday for you guys. I'm really enjoying it, and hope you guys have a good day at work, good day at school, whatever it is. And you know, if there's anything that you guys want to hear about or talk about, or any topic you think that I should cover, go ahead and put that in the comments. I'd love to hear some type of topics that you think that I should cover too. All right, so that is the end of this segment, the last segment for today. Hope you guys have an amazing Monday, which also means that we'll see you once again tomorrow on the Morning Star Drive on 117.8.
It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly, so let's realign. Just listen and fill your mind.
I'm burning with desire and the passion.